Welcome to Assessment Services Department 2021-2022 CAASPP Essential Training for Site Coordinators. I'm Walt Shaw, the CAASPP Coordinator for the San Diego Unified School District and the presenter for this training. The topics covered will be what's new in CAASPP for 21-22, an overview of what's on CAASPP, the roles and responsibilities, test administration, assessment accessibility, what are the tasks in TOMS. There will also be CAASPP resources, and at the conclusion you will have the assessment services contacts. Now let's review what's new in CAASPP this plan year. Please know that it will be critical for site coordinators to provide this training to all certificated staff who will be administering the Smarter Balance assessment this year, as no testing was completed last year to our regularly tested grade levels. The most notable change for 2021-2022 is that the assessments resume for CAASPP and CAST. There are also new guidances in Alt for All, and that required testing training will be for those administering the Smarter Balanced assessments. California state officials now state that conditions are such at a place now where school communities can resume standardized testing after the previous year cancellation. Alt for All addresses concerns about determining students' eligibility to take alternate assessments. Alt for All means a student who meets the criteria for one assessment should meet the criteria for all assessments. IEP teams should determine test assignment for an individual with the most significant cognitive disabilities. Now, while many of the students taking alternate assessments are not on a diploma track, this does not prevent a student with the most significant cognitive disabilities who takes an alternate assessment from attempting to complete the requirements for a regular high school diploma. Therefore, once the determination is made in the IEP, the information is synchronized with PowerSchool, and PowerSchool synchronizes with TOMS. Thus, staff must not designate a student as an alternate in TOMS in order for the student to participate in an alternate assessment. The evaluation must be within the IEP to satisfy the alternate assessment eligibility. This year, there is a requirement for those administering the Call for Science and the CAR ELA and Math. This is a CAASPP testing annual requirement. Examiners first complete the San Diego Unified's Safe School CAR training. Then, when it is completed, you would email me for the Moodle training key. Then in Moodle, complete both the General and the CAR for Science sections to obtain the CAR for Science certification of completion. Refer to the last slide for the link to the Safe Schools training and the CAR Moodle training. The CAASPP testing requirements is that 95% of students in all schools are required to take the annual standardized test under the No Child Left Behind Act. This includes all subgroups such as special ed students, and 95% of these identified students will need to test as well. So if your site has CAR students taking the alternate assessment, I would highly encourage you to begin communicating with them, for the reason that many opted out for this test during the 2019-2020 school year. The CAASPP system will have scheduled downtimes. these times, none of the interfaces, including Tom's, will be accessible. These dates are not part of your testing window unless you are currently administering your alternate science assessment, and this may impact your practice assessments and data access. The testing administration is currently open for CAASPP Science. And an important note, all examiners must complete the Safe School and Mule training prior to administering the CAA. The CAA assessments is only available for in-person administration. April 11th through June 14th is the testing administration for ELA and math. And the Safe Schools assessment training links will be on the last slide. California is one of a handful of states that have a law allowing parents to opt out of state mandated standardized testing. School sites are responsible for obtaining the parent notification and parent exemption forms. So please retain the original at your site, then scan and email a copy to me at my email address. The parent exemption form link is on the last slide. Please ensure that you include the student's SSID number. Next is an overview on the CAASPP systems. CAASPP is a system intended to provide information that can be used to monitor students' progress and ensure that all students leave high school ready for college and career. CAASPP also includes computer adaptive tests in English language arts, mathematics, and science. The main support for all the system's assessments can be found in the CAASPP Online Test Administration Manual. You can also find information on the CAASPP Post-Test Guide and the Interim Assessment User Guide. Links to these manuals will be on the last slide. Access to this system is granted originally by the principal. Once test site coordinators have been identified, they will then add test examiners for each site. So in the event you need support, please contact myself. The CAASPP system is made up of general assessments. Under these assessments are the Smarter Balanced Summative for ELA, the Smarter Balanced Summative for math, and the California Science Test. CAASPP is also made up of California alternate assessments. These are the CAA for ELA, mathematics, and science, and the California Spanish assessments. An explanation on each of these will be in the following slides. CAASPP general assessments include Smarter Balance assessments and CAST assessments. Under Smarter Balance, grades 3 through 8 and 11 students are to take the test, except students who qualify to take the CAA and ELA and math. Also, English learners who have been in the United States in a school for fewer than 12 months, unless the students have a parent exemption on file. CAST assessments are for students in grades 5, 8, and 12. All students in those grades are eligible except for students who qualify to take the CAA for science and students who have a parent guardian exemption on file. The Smarter Balanced Administration consists of assessments in ELA and math that also include a computer adaptive test, which adjusts the level of difficulty to the student's abilities, and a performance task that is designed to provide students with an opportunity to demonstrate higher order thinking skills using a real-world scenario. Now, the Smarter Balance tests are untimed and may be paused as many times as necessary. The CAASPP administration is online only through the test delivery system using the same secure browser as other CAASPP tests. Now, these may be administered in one sitting, consisting of 6 segments, 2 discrete items, 2 performance tasks, and 1 segment that is either a discrete item or performance task. And lastly, a student survey. Now, the Smarter Balanced Administration expiration rules for the computer adaptive test is 45 days, calendar days. And for the performance task, it is 10 calendar days. The CAASPP expiration rules are 45 calendar days. Both of these assessments are done by administrators, and they must complete the CAASPP and Moodle training. The California Alternate Assessments, or the CAA, are for students that has the most significant cognitive disabilities. These students require extensive, direct, individualized instructions and support to achieve measurable gains in their grade level. Students who are eligible to take the CAA may not take any of the other CAASPP general assessments. Students in grades 3 through 8 and 11 take the CAA for ELA and math, and students in grades 5, 8, and 12 take the CAA for science. Test examiners must complete the training, and the link is on the last slide. The administration for the CAA for ELA and math are administered online, one-on-one with a test examiner. Test examiners will need access to 2 devices. One must have the secure browser installed. Each test has up to 29 questions and typically takes 95 minutes, and that are paused as necessary. The CAA for science is administered one-on-one after related concepts are taught during classroom instruction. This administration consists of 4 grades and versions and subject-specific performance tasks. And there's also 3 or 4 survey questions that will appear at the end of each performance task. The test examiner will need to enter survey responses on a student's testing device. The expiration rules for the CAA for ELA and math are 45 calendar days, as well as for the CAA for science. California alternate assessments include a process known as second scoring. The purpose of second scoring is to establish and document standardized scoring procedures. The second scoring is done by another educator to review the scoring methods and provide scorer reliability. The results of second scoring will be used to satisfy a federal peer review requirement. The second scores will not be used for official scoring or reporting purposes. A link to the sites that are required to conduct second scoring is on the last slide. The California Science Test, or CAASPP, is administered in grades 5 and 8 and once to each student that is in high school. Students take the CAASPP unless a student's IEP designates the use of the CAA, or the California Alternate Assessment. High schools have the option to test any or all students in grades 10 or 11, or as long as the students have been tested by grade 12. Grade 11 students, if registered for the CAASPP but did not test, will be eligible to test in the future. The exceptions are for students who had a medical exemption or a parent guardian exemption. They will not be eligible to test. All students must take the CAASPP by the end of grade 12. Now for a review on the roles and responsibilities. The CAASPP Site Coordinator is responsible for maintaining registration accounts for educators at their site, administering and reporting and using TOMS and the CAASPP system. They ensure that all accommodations are correctly entered in TOMS and CAASPP, and the site coordinators must complete the site coordinator training on Safe Schools and in Moodle, and the link is to the bottom of the screen. The CAASPP Site Test Administrator works with the CAASPP Site Coordinator to maintain all the accounts and resources in TOMS and the CAASPP system. The Site Test Administrator does not need to be credentialed, and they can administer the general, interim, practice, and training tests, but they cannot administer the CAR for Science or the CAR for ELA and Math. There is a checklist for site administrators, and the link is at the bottom of the screen. Now, the CAASPP Site Test Examiner must be credentialed. They can administer all the exams, including the CAR for Science and CAR for ELA and Math. And prior to administering any of these exams, they must complete the training, and the link for that training is on the last slide, which is located in Safe Schools, and then they need to take the Moodle training as well. Another note is that the test site examiner works in conjunction with the site coordinator and the administrator to maintain all of the resources and the accounts in TOMS and the CAASPP system. I would like to point out that site coordinators, administrators, and examiners work together with their office staff to print out SSID numbers for each student and put them on labels, and to provide this number to students in a one-on-one meeting. You provide the ID verbally. However, email is not considered a secure method to provide the student with their SSID. And instructions as to how to print them are on the last slide. And for your information, I am available to assist you through Zoom. You can see my Zoom link on the screen. Next is a brief review on testing administration. We strongly encourage staff to use these test preparation tools: the Smarter Balanced Interim Assessment Blocks, or IABs, training tests, and practice tests. Smarter Balanced IABs look and feel like the Summative assessments. The test administrator administers the IABs via a test delivery system, just like summative assessments. IABs are short assessments which focuses on specific concepts. Small balanced IABs include ELA and mathematic performance tasks for each concept area. Analysis of statewide assessment data shows that schools that administer IABs had more improvement in school-level summative scale scores than those that did not administer the interim assessment. As previously stated, staff is encouraged to use training tests and practice tests in the Smarter Balanced ELA and Math, CAST, and alternate assessments. Now, in these areas, the training test and practice test allow students to become familiar with the testing interface. It also provides students a preview of the format, item types, for them to become familiar with the software and to become familiar with the item, response types, and difficulty level. In this slide, you will see the different grade levels for the Smarter Balanced ELA in Math and CAASPP. And in this slide, you will see the grade levels for each of the alternate assessment training areas and practice tests for CAA, ELA in Math, and CAA for Science. And again, the purpose is to familiarize the students with the testing interface, samples of the questions, and to become familiar with the question functionality and response types. When accessing the training test and practice test, test administrators may set up a test session and have students log in via a secure browser which simulates the testing environment and allows the student to complete a test over multiple sessions. And a link to setting up practice test training is at the end of these slides. In addition, test administrators may also set up a test session that offers the opportunity to use text-to-speech. It is highly recommended that students access the training tests before taking a summative assessment. And the training test will be especially beneficial for those students who have not previously participated in an online testing environment. The next few slides will cover reminders for testing administration. To begin with, ensure that the correct test is assigned to the student, and also ensure that the test settings for the student are set at least 48 hours prior to the student testing. Another reminder is that teachers should log into the test administrator interface before the first day of testing and disable pop-up blockers in order to create a test session. A job aid to turn off pop-up blockers will be at the end of this presentation. Teachers should also follow the directions for administration and be familiar with how to create a test session. And a job aid for directions for administration and creating a test session will be on the last slide. Another reminder is that cell phones or any other electronic devices may not be used at any time during the test session. They should be turned off or put away. Another reminder is the student should be allowed a reasonable amount of time for a verbal response or for a motor response to the task. Wait times are approximate. You know your student and the approximate time for a response. So directions may be necessary if repeated. Test administrators or student may pause the test for various reasons, such as technical issues, or a student needs to take a break, or the student is idle on the test. If a test is paused for less than 20 minutes, the student can return to the previous test pages and change the response to any item they have already answered. There are no pause limitations for the performance tasks. The student can pause for any amount of time and still return to any previously answered item within a performance task current segment. One note, ELA performance tasks are divided into two parts. After a student completes part one, they cannot return to it. Idle activity means selecting an answer or using a navigation option in the test, such as selecting next or back and using questions drop-down list. Students must answer all test items on a page before moving on to the next page. They also may not return to a test segment once it has been completed and submitted. And students will receive a message at the end of each segment prompting them to review their answers before continuing testing. Once the students start taking a test, please be reminded of the test expiration rules. You will have 45 days from the first day that the student takes the test for them to complete the CAR ELA in Math and the CAASPP and the California Science Assessment from the first day they start. You will have 10 calendar days for the students to finish the performance test ELA in Math from the first day they start. Please remember this when scheduling your makeups. If a test closes before the student is done, you will need to complete a STAIRS case in TOMS. This case provides a brief description that supports the testing issue. A link to the expiration and pause rules is on the last slide. And finally, a reminder that at the end of the testing, to collect all DFAs, shred printed material, and securely delete all electronic EFAs. Next, we have a brief outline on assessment accessibility. The purpose of accessibility is to provide students an equal opportunity to demonstrate what they know and what they can do. And accessibility is a more accurate and complete picture of the student learning. Now within TOMS, teachers must verify that the student's designated support and accommodations are correct before approving the student. They do this by clicking on the view icon. Also, enter all designated supports and accommodations in TOMS at least 48 hours before testing begins. So just remember, when you enter any information in TOMS, it takes at least 24 hours for the information to be active. So please do not conduct any testing until you've waited at least 24 hours after entering any information in TOMS. Teachers should not test a student if the designated supports and accommodation are not set. A reset appeal is only needed if the accommodation change is needed on a test the student has already started. Other accessibility resources are universal tools. These are available to all students based upon student preference and selection. Designated supports are available to all students who can benefit from them, but they must be indicated by an educator set in TOMS. And accommodations based upon a student's IEP or 504 plan, and this must be set in TOMS. Regarding accessibility unlisted resources, they are not on the approved list of universal tools, designated supports, or accommodations. Unlisted resource must be made available if specified in the student's IEP or 504 plan and only upon CDE approval. Requests must be submitted to the CDE 10 days prior to testing via TOMS. And if the CDE determines the unlisted resource changes the construct being measured, the student will not be counted as a participant for accountability purposes. This slide shows the links for the student assessment accessibility for English language arts, mathematics, science, and the California Spanish assessment. Each of these guides will show the resources available to all students and the resources available to students with an active IEP or 504 plan. The Individual Student Assessment Accessibility Profile, or ISAP, is to assist the site coordinators in collecting information on identified designated supports and accommodations. Links to the ISAP templates and information videos is on the last slide. Now we've come to a brief overview on TOMS. TOMS is a secure website that permits site coordinators to perform several tasks for the CAASPP test administration. For best performance, download the latest version of Chrome, Firefox, or Safari to access the TOMS manual, and the link is on the last slide. In the CAASPP portal, which is where you could see TOMS, you could review student data, verify correct tests have been assigned to students, enter designated support accommodations and unlisted resources for students, enter any condition codes such as parent exemptions or medical emergencies. You could report incidents and submit appeals and generate any necessary reports. Within TOMS, there is STAIRS. STAIRS is an incident reporting system. This is where you could report testing issues. STAIRS is a streamlined process that's automatically generated after you submit your form. Not all incidents reported in STAIRS are securely related, such as reopening a test after it has expired. English learners enrolled in a U.S. school less than 12 months that took the ELA test will not be used for accountability purposes and therefore need not be reported in STAIRS. Question skipping should not be reported in STAIRS. The system does not allow students to skip unanswered questions. The use of unauthorized electronic devices is only reported if the student was actively engaged in testing, or if the student completed testing but used a different device to help other students that were still testing. Any indication of a test breach must be reported in STAIRS. This includes any incident that threatens the test validity of the materials, that has external implications for statewide assessments, and the test breach must be reported to the test site coordinator and to the district's CAASPP coordinator, myself. This shows the various incident types and examples that should be reported in STAIRS, such as test impropriety is when a student is talking during testing. Is test irregularity if a student is caught cheating or providing answers to one another. And another test irregularity is students accessing or using electronic equipment such as a cell phone. It is a test breach if test administrators or test examiners allow students to take home test questions or scratch paper, and it's also a test breach if the test examiner, test administrator, or test coordinator modifies a student's responses on the exam. This slide shows the level of severity and potential effect on test security. If the issue is a test expiring before the student could complete the test, that's a low impropriety. A medium irregularity is if a student is cheating or providing answers to another or passing notes. And another medium irregularity is the student accessing the internet or any use of unauthorized software during the testing event. Once testing is complete, you may want to access student scores. One way is to bulk download student score reports, and there is a reference guide to that. And another way is to print individualized student score reports from PowerSchool, and there is a reference guide for that. The link to both of these reference guides is on the last slide. One post-testing task is to submit the principal's certification and apportionment form to me here at Assessment Services, in addition to destroying all scratch paper, login sheets, and CAA DFAs, and to ensure all condition codes have been entered into TOMS. This concludes the CAASPP Essentials training. I am Walt Shaw, and my number is on the screen, as well as my email. The main line for Assessment Services is on the screen, and the email for the director, Erica Simmons, is on the screen. And for any situations involving equipment or technical help, the number to the ITSS help desk is also on the screen. In addition, as a reminder, I could provide assistance through Zoom. My Zoom link is on the screen. And the next slides will outline the links that were to each slide. And these links are also available on the San Diego Unified Assessment Services website.